So for those who maybe aren't totally up to speed, let's start with like a really quick recap. What exactly is BRICS? Like what are we even talking about here?
Yeah, so BRICS is a group of major emerging economies. It's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And what's really interesting right now is that it's recently expanded
Oh, okay.
with new members like Egypt, Iran, and the UAE.
Wow.
And there's even talk of like dozens of other countries lining up to join.
So it sounds like they're gaining some serious momentum. Why is BRICS becoming such a focal point, like right now? What's going on?
Well, I think it's really all about challenging the existing world order
Okay.
and specifically the dominance of the US dollar. BRICS represents this massive chunk of the global population and the global economy, and they're looking for ways to, exert more influence and kind of have more of a say in how things are run.
Okay, and that brings us to, I guess, this Trump tariff threat. And he's talking about putting like a 100% tariff
Yeah.
on BRICS nations, which is, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
What exactly triggered this? Like, what set this whole thing off?
Well, it seems to be a direct response to discussions within BRICS about moving away from the US dollar in trade. They're talking about boosting transactions in their own local currencies and creating like alternatives to the current financial systems that we have.
Okay, so Trump is basically drawing a line in the sand here. What did he actually say, like word for word?
So, according to CTV News, he posted on Truth Social, and I quote, "The idea that the BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand by and watch is over. We require a commitment from these countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy."
Wow, so he didn't hold back. And I mean, calling them suckers is, I mean, that's classic Trump.
Yeah.
But seriously, why are these BRICS nations even considering ditching the dollar? Like what's in it for them?
Well, there are a few reasons. I mean, some, like Brazil, they want to reduce their dependence on the US dollar and, just gain more control over their own economic destinies.
Okay, so it's partly about them being able to assert their independence. What else?
Yeah, and for others, like Russia and Iran, it's a way to potentially bypass Western sanctions. The US dollar's global power gives the US a lot of leverage, but it also makes countries vulnerable to, economic pressure.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds like a pretty strategic move to protect themselves,
Yeah.
but realistically, can they actually create a whole new currency? Like, isn't that incredibly complex?
Yeah, you're right. It's a massive undertaking. And even, some within BRICS are pretty skeptical about it. Russian President Putin, according to NDTV, acknowledged that there are really no viable alternatives to the SWIFT system yet.
Okay.
And India's foreign minister, S. Jaishankar, he also expressed reservations about, moving away from the dollar.
So it seems like more of a long-term goal than an immediate possibility.
Right.
But this Trump threat feels very immediate.
Right.
Is this just, another one of his negotiating tactics?
It's certainly possible. I mean, he has a history of using tariffs as leverage, especially against countries like India, Brazil, and China.
And NDTV points out that he's been talking about a 2025 tariff plan based on reciprocity.
Right.
He even called India the biggest charger of tariffs just last month. So this latest threat could be part of a bigger picture strategy. Like he's
Yes.
essentially saying, don't mess with the US dollar or there will be consequences.
Exactly.
So we're seeing some pushback here, but things are still pretty tense. How are other countries reacting to all this, like this standoff?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. There are like conflicting reports about a call between Trump and the Mexican president.
Okay.
And, Canada's prime minister met with Trump, but the details of their conversation, haven't been released.
Sounds like everyone's just trying to figure out what this all means for them.
Yeah.
Let's zoom out for a sec. Why is this, like, tension, between the U.S. and BRICS even happening? Like, what's at the root of all of this?
Well, at its core, I think it's a power struggle.
Okay.
The U.S. has been the dominant force in the global economy for, decades. But now these emerging economies are rising up and challenging that dominance.
It's like BRICS is saying, hey, we're here, and we're not going to play by your rules anymore.
Exactly. And this idea of a BRICS currency, even if it's, a long way off, it's a symbol of that shift. It represents this potential, move away from a US-centric system.
And Trump's threat is basically a way of trying to hold on to that power.
Yeah, I think so. It's a way of saying, we're still in charge here. But the question is, will it work? Could this actually backfire and push countries further away from the dollar?
That'd be kind of ironic, wouldn't it? Like trying to protect the dollar's dominance could actually end up weakening it.
It's certainly a possibility. I mean, if countries start to see the U.S. as, unreliable or too aggressive, they might be more likely to explore other options.
Okay, so like what are the potential scenarios here? Like what could happen next?
Well, one possibility is that this is all just bluster from Trump.
Okay.
And, he'll back down eventually.
Kind of like a negotiating tactic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another possibility is that he, actually goes through with the tariffs,
Yes.
which could lead to like a full-blown trade war, which would be, bad news for everyone involved.
Yeah. Higher prices,
Yeah.
economic instability, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So what's the third scenario?
The third scenario is that this threat actually accelerates the move away from the U.S. dollar.
Yep.
Countries might start diversifying their reserves and looking for alternatives, like gold or even digital currencies.
So it could actually speed up the process of like creating a new global financial system.
It's the most dramatic possibility, but it's not out of the question. I mean, we're in a time of massive change, and the old rules might not apply anymore.
This is a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Like so much uncertainty, so many potential consequences. It feels like we're standing at like a crossroads.
Yeah, we are. And the decisions made in the next few months, they could have huge implications for the entire world.
This really does feel like we're like on the edge of something big.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back down to earth for a sec. What does all of this like actually mean for like everyday people? How could this like global power struggle actually, play out in our lives?
Well, I mean, imagine going to the store and suddenly everything's way more expensive, like your phone, your clothes, even groceries.
Yeah.
If this turns into a trade war, these tariffs could make prices skyrocket.
Right.
And we could see shortages if supply chains get disrupted.
So it's not just about some like abstract economic theory. This
Right.
could actually hit our wallets directly.
Absolutely. But, it's not all doom and gloom. There's also a chance that this could lead to something, better if
Yeah.
it forces countries to diversify and rely less on the US dollar. We might end up with a more stable and balanced global economy in the long run.
So like a rough patch now,
Yeah.
but with the possibility of like a brighter future.
That's one way to look at it. But, we have to remember, we're in uncharted territory here. There are so many factors at play. It's really hard to predict what will happen.